Have you ever noticed how fortune seems to favor the prepared while shunning those who beg for it? There's a subtle alchemy to wealth, a hidden current that dictates its flow. You're on the cusp of a remarkable shift, a transformation that will shatter your current understanding of financial prosperity. It's not a magic trick, a fluke, or the result of relentless grinding. It's something far more profound. By tweaking one key element, your inner belief system, opportunities will flood in, your phone will ring off the hook, and doors will open you never even knew existed. My own journey taught me that wealth doesn't begin in your wallet, it starts in your mind. While I saw myself as an average Joe constantly battling for survival, I attracted situations that reinforced that very belief. But once I re-engineered my internal financial narrative, the external world rearranged itself like a well-oiled machine. Even as a Toronto firefighter, I unconsciously repeated limiting beliefs. Resources are scarce. It takes blood, sweat, and tears. This isn't for me. Each phrase was a direct command to my nervous system, trapping me in a predictable cycle of paying one bill only to have another crisis pop up. Then came a pivotal moment. I stopped fighting reality and started questioning my ingrained beliefs. I grabbed pen and paper and wrote down, unfiltered, everything I thought about money, abundance, expenses, and self-worth. It hurt. That was the blueprint of my self-imposed prison. I then rewrote each limiting belief as if I already managed a substantial fortune. I replaced "wealth requires sacrifice" with "fortune responds to the order, clarity, and value I deliver." "I can't negotiate" became "I empower others to achieve what enhances their lives." I didn't wait to believe before acting. I acted until my body learned to believe. The first sign wasn't a windfall. It was the effortless ease of making a phone call I'd previously postponed for weeks. I remember leaving the fire station, determined to launch a cleaning service. The phone in my hand felt like lead. My voice trembled on the first call. I almost retreated to the familiar comfort of my old self. But I held the line, playing the role of the efficient, friendly problem solver. Within days, I landed my first clients. By the end of the year, that small business had generated roughly $100,000. It wasn't luck. It was alignment. I didn't have stronger muscles, but a new paradigm. Ask yourself honestly, does your routine and body language reflect someone managing abundance, or are you still constantly putting out fires? Effective reprogramming involves 3 phases. First, take inventory. Write down the automatic negative thoughts that pop up throughout your day. "Nobody pays that much. I'm going to lose the client. I can't save money." No judgment, just record them. Second, replace them with practical, not fanciful language. Instead of "I'll be rich," I wrote, "I present clear solutions, charge confidently, and forge mutually beneficial agreements." Instead of visualizing money falling from the sky, I visualize myself calling, scheduling, presenting, negotiating, delivering. I felt the calm in my voice, the pace of my speech, my upright posture, the silence after stating my price. Posture is programming. The third phase is your environment. Remove scarcity triggers and install order triggers. An organized wallet, a clear desk, a simple updated spreadsheet, important contacts readily accessible. Your environment doesn't motivate, it instructs your brain about who you are. I know the objections that arise when attempting change. I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I'm not qualified. I didn't have any of those either. Time is created through defined priorities, daily, a revenue-generating activity before checking social media. Money multiplies when you stop chasing it like prey and treat it as an ally. I set a minimum value per task and never undercut it to avoid donating work out of anxiety. Formal education helps, but it's not the only path. I studied people, patterns, language, and perceived value. I ask questions most avoid. What problem do I solve so clearly it makes saying no uncomfortable? What in my process communicates tension and needs eliminating today? Where am I leaking money due to fear of rejection? These questions shift your vibrational frequency because they force you to confront where scarcity hides. There was a day I almost gave up, a low bank balance, a late payment, and the urge to take anything just to have money. Instead, I sat down, regulated my breathing, and wrote 10 times, I operate with serenity and profit. I charge fairly. I deliver as promised. I called a client inventing excuses to delay. I listened attentively, reiterated their goal in my own words, offered an alternative with a clear start, middle, and end, and remained silent. That sustained silence, without nervousness, was my greatest training. He said, "Let's do it." I felt relief and self-respect. That contract opened new doors, not because of the money, but because it solidified my identity as someone who doesn't compromise their dignity. Notice, most people want money, but their bodies reject situations that bring it. They avoid direct conversations, hesitate to discuss pricing, postpone proposals, respond late, don't ask satisfied clients for referrals. Self-image is the software driving these choices. I had to train myself to embrace productive discomfort. The tension before a call, the silence after quoting a price, the patient wait for a genuine yes instead of forcing a discounted yes. This training alters your frequency because it increases your tolerance for prosperity. You can handle bigger relationships, responsibilities, and values without self-sabotage. What if I lose the client? If they only buy when you devalue yourself, you're already losing yourself. What if they think it's too expensive? Expensive compared to what? How much does it cost the other person to continue without your solution? Questions like these shift you from supplicant to partner. I also implemented small, almost imperceptible rituals that reinforced my new identity. Upon waking, I chose a revenue-generating task and executed it before any distractions. Then I reviewed my daily process. Who will I help today? How will I approach them? When will I invoice? What will I deliver? At night, I recorded 3 pieces of progress, even small ones, to teach my brain it's working. And at least once a day, I practiced the receiving posture, standing tall, shoulders open, hands relaxed, breathing calmly, like someone receiving good news. It seems simple, but the body is the stage where the mind rehearses the future. When the body learns, the mind follows. Close your eyes for a moment and recall the last time you said, "I'm not good at this." Replace it with, "I'm mastering this skill," and feel what shifts in your chest, jaw, and shoulders. This micro shift, repeated often, separates those who tread water from those who advance. This is how I transitioned from an insecure employee to a purposeful entrepreneur. Without a degree, without the right connections, I built a business that, in 12 months, generated approximately $100,000. Not by discovering a magic shortcut, but by aligning belief, emotion, and action, and maintaining that alignment on days when nothing seemed to happen. You're not fixing your finances. You're upgrading the person managing your finances. Money is a lagging indicator of your identity. When your identity adjusts, the indicator has no choice but to follow. I learned that without structure, money becomes a test, not a blessing. Because if you don't know how to preserve, protect, and multiply it, everything that comes in will go out. Worse, it will leave through the same invisible holes, fueled by old, untreated beliefs. Money is a reflection of your system, not your luck, and every system has pillars. In my case, I built pillars so simple anyone can apply them, even with limited resources. It's not about how much comes in, but how you handle what you already have. The first step is creating clarity about income and expenses. I'm not talking about vague notes. It's creating a real map where every value has a name and destination. I'd sit with a blank sheet of paper and write, line by line, how much had come in that month, where it came from, and where it went. Nothing was left unaccounted for. For every expense I asked, is it a necessity, safety, growth, or vanity? If it wasn't one of the first 3, I cut it or froze it, not as punishment, but as an affirmation of who I wanted to become. Because if money has no destination, it becomes a distraction. Then I organized a reserve to protect my decisions. I didn't start with much. It was small, but consistent. Every time I received money, I set aside a portion, no matter how small, before paying any bills. Because if you only save what's left, you'll never save anything. What's left already has an owner, impulse. This reserve wasn't for investment, but to shield my mind. Because when you have a financial reserve, You think better, negotiate better, and say no more confidently. The absence of that reserve made me accept disrespectful clients, deliver more than agreed, and lose sleep. Its presence gave me firmness. As I expanded, I needed to separate real growth from mere euphoria. Before any income increase became a treat, a new phone, a house move. Now, I asked, does this increase my ability to generate more value or feed an emotional void? Because many financial decisions are attempts to fix self-esteem through consumption, and self-esteem isn't bought, it's built. I invested in tools that made me more productive, in specific training to deliver better results, and in people who complimented me. Growth requires criteria. I also learned that planned generosity isn't a luxury, it's emotional intelligence. Because when you share purposefully, you reinforce the idea that abundance exists. I chose a small, consistent percentage to help causes aligned with my values. It wasn't charity, it was seed planting. This helped keep my heart open and my mind free from fear. Because fear of lack makes you cling to what you have and forget that the flow only continues if you let go. There was a crucial moment when everything was tested. A contract representing half my income was unexpectedly cancelled. I could have panicked, but I didn't. So I examined my system, saw the reserve I'd built, reviewed my contacts, sent 3 proposals, and closed 2 new contracts in less than a week. I only managed this because fear didn't take control, and fear didn't take control because the system was working. Have you ever felt paralyzed when an income source vanished? This doesn't happen when you have emotional and financial organization. Stability begins long before the bank balance. When I say maintain money, it's not about hoarding. It's about having criteria. So before any purchase, I ask 3 questions. Does it solve a real problem? Does it have recurring utility? Does it contribute to what I'm building? If 2 answers are no, I postpone it. And almost always the next day, the desire is gone. Thus, I don't trade progress for impulse, and every time I do this, I reinforce my identity as someone who knows what they're doing with what they have. The biggest mistake I see is people who start earning more and think they can have it all. They raise their standard of living before consolidating their structure. They buy cars, move to better neighborhoods, take out loans for vacations, but they forget that their new financial reality is still fragile. I learned to wait for 3 stable cycles before raising my standard of living. This gave me peace, because those who climb slowly climb firmly, and those who climb firmly don't fall easily. You can start now even without many resources. Take a piece of paper and write, how much came in last month? List all expenses, categorize them, see what can be paused, reviewed, or renegotiated. Choose a symbolic amount to save. It can be small. The gesture is what matters. Decide where to invest for growth and where to contribute to the world. With these simple steps, you start telling the universe, I know how to care for this. You can send more. Money doesn't change who you are. It exposes and amplifies. If you're disorganized, it accelerates chaos. If you're conscious, it accelerates freedom. So never just wish for more money. Wish to become someone who knows exactly what to do when it arrives. Because when you prove you know how to care for it, it starts returning more frequently. And then abundance becomes a state, not an exception. When I say maintaining your financial identity is more important than making quick money, I'm not exaggerating. Because what builds true wealth isn't the speed at which money comes in, but the consistency with which it remains and works for you. It's common to see someone have a sudden increase in income and in a short time return to the same point, or worse. This happens because the internal structure doesn't keep pace with the new level. You continue thinking, feeling, and deciding like someone living in scarcity, even when your bank account says otherwise. And that's more common than you think. For money to become a natural consequence of your new way of existing, you need to build daily habits that sustain this new identity. One of the first I adopted was starting the day with clarity about which action, that day, brings me closer to what I want to live. And that action needs to be related to generating value. If you start your day solving other people's problems, putting out fires, and saying yes to everything, you're sacrificing your path to build someone else's. Every day, before even opening messages or responding to anything, I asked myself, what action today creates the most impact and the greatest return? And only after that did I pay attention to the rest. Another crucial point is maintaining an environment that reminds you of who you are becoming. This isn't just metaphorical, it's literal. The things around you influence your mind. When I looked at my desk and saw clutter, papers, open bills, unfinished projects, it told me my life was out of control. And a mind that feels disorganized doesn't create, doesn't negotiate well, and doesn't make good decisions. So I organized my physical and digital spaces simply. Only what's necessary, everything in its place, and emotional clutter out of sight. The energy changes. The focus changes. You start operating with more elegance and less effort. I also started recording every day 3 pieces of evidence that I was evolving. This could be a satisfied client, a proposal sent, a habit maintained, a limit respected, small daily victories that serve as anchors. This strengthens your inner confidence and teaches your mind that it's working. Because what knocks down most people isn't failure. It's the feeling that nothing is changing. And this happens because they don't measure what they're building. If you don't measure, you forget. If you forget, you repeat old patterns. And if you repeat, you return to the starting point. To maintain my firm stance in difficult conversations, I created a simple ritual before each important meeting. I closed my eyes for a minute, took a deep breath, and remembered 3 reasons why my work creates real transformation. Then I repeated a phrase to myself: I am someone who delivers value, charges clearly, and honors agreements. This phrase became the basis of my tone, my posture, and my silence after stating my price. When you sustain silence, you show that you are whole. Those who don't sustain silence justify, embellish, beg. And when you beg, you surrender your authority. There's an invisible trap that brings many down: constant comparison with others. You look at those who seem to be earning more, living better, and feel you're behind. But what you don't see is behind the scenes. Nobody posts their debts, their stress, their bad deals, their low prices out of desperation. When I realized this, I unplugged everything for a week. No social media, no distractions. I returned to myself, to my numbers, to my goals, and there I reconnected with my path. Money doesn't respect anxiety, it respects direction, and direction requires silence from time to time. Another habit that protects me is never making important decisions on tiring days. When I'm exhausted, I don't negotiate, I don't change prices, I don't close contracts, because exhaustion distorts the perception of value. And at those times, you tend to give too much, discount too much, and regret it later. So when my body asks for rest, I rest. It's not a luxury, it's intelligence. A rested mind sees opportunities that an exhausted mind ignores, and when you learn to rest without guilt, you become more productive in less time. The most important point is to understand that maintaining your firm identity doesn't depend on how much you have, but how you act with what you have. I've seen people with little money behaving like true investors, analyzing, choosing, planning. And I've seen people with a lot of money living as if they'll go broke tomorrow, buying on impulse, running away from numbers, hiding behind appearances. What makes the difference isn't the account balance, it's consciousness. You can start now. Organize your space. Choose a value-generating action before noon. Record 3 advancements at the end of the day. Breathe before important conversations. Review your promises and fulfill each one with excellence. And above all, stop looking sideways and start looking inward. The next level of your financial life isn't in luck, the market, or others. It's in sustaining the version of you who already knows what to do with what you have. When that version becomes your new normal, money stops testing you and starts obeying you. Stay in this frequency of clarity, presence, and conscious decision-making, because that's what sustains the next leaps you want to take. Now watch the next video on screen. It's the next step to climb another rung on your evolution and become a little better than you are now. Thank you for your company until now, and I hope to see you in the next video.